So let's continue with our session. I hope you must have gone through the video that was posted yesterday. So we are going to refer to that design today. So I hope majority of you people have gone through the video and you have understood whatever is the design for the university database. As I mentioned earlier also, throughout this course, in fact, we are going to refer to that university schema. And that is why this is the very essential step that we should understand how to draw the ER model for the university schema. We are going to continue our discussion with the university database itself. So in this unit, unit number 2 also will be referring to the university database. And we are going to discuss the concepts related to the relational model. Okay. So let's begin with unit number 2. This unit deals with relational model and also we are going to discuss structured query language in this unit. So once again, we have divided this unit in two parts. In the first section, we are going to discuss about the relational model, in which we are going to discuss how to reduce the ER model into the relational schema, then the structure of relational database, schema instance distinction, referential integrity and foreign keys. Will be focusing upon some pure languages also that include relational algebra, tuple relational calculus and domain relational calculus. So this is what we are going to study under relational model. After that, we are going to discuss SQL. That is the second section of our unit. So as we know, SQL is structured query language and that is being used to write the queries, to extract the data, right? So many of the DML statements we are going to look at. Also, we are going to discuss DDL statements, practically how to create our database schema and then how to insert the data into the tables, how to delete the data, how to modify the existing data into the tables. Also, we'll be focusing upon many different SQL constructs. Those will help us to extract the data from our database. So this is what we are going to study in this unit. So under SQL, we'll be introducing SQL, then the data definition language statements with constraint, DML statements. Under select statement, we are going to look at set operation, aggregate functions, group by class, having clause, nested queries, how to write views, some complex queries and also the joins. So practically, if we look at this section of SQL is really very important. And in addition, in this section number 1, as far as the practical aspect is considered, in first few sessions will be focusing upon how ER model can be converted into the relational schema. And once we get this relational schema we are going to practically implement. Under pure languages, in fact, relational algebra is the basis for structured query language. And that is why initially we are going to look at this relational algebra along with tuple relational calculus and domain relational calculus, and then we will go for SQL. So this is what the agenda is for our discussion of unit number 2. So let's begin with the discussion. So here, I hope you must have gone through this ER model for the university database, and you must have understood how or what is the thought process behind and how we have made use of various aspects of ER diagram that we have studied. If you have any kind of doubt, please let me know. Otherwise, we are going to continue. If anybody is having any doubt in this ER model, please let me know. Yes? Any doubts? Have you understood this ER model? Because we are going to refer to this ER model in further discussion. Fine. So let's proceed now with the concept of reduction of ER model to tables. So while designing any database application, first of all, after going through the problem statement and after understanding the requirement of the enterprise, what we do is we come up with such kind of ER model. So ER model basically is the conceptual model. So if we would like to practically implement our database, we need to implement our database in relational database system. Okay. So in building any database application, after going through the problem statement and the enterprise requirements of the enterprise, what we need to do is we need to come up with the conceptual design. And here we are selecting the ER model to come up with the conceptual design of our database system. Once we are ready with our ER model, what next we need to do is we need to actually implement this design in some of the database management systems. And we are right now dealing with relational database system. So in one of the RDBMS, we would like to implement. So if we want to implement, what next we need to do is we need to convert now our finalized ER model into the relational schema. Right? We need to implement it. And that is why we need to convert it into a relational schema. So in this session, we are going to discuss how the ER model is being converted into relational schema. And once the relational schema is ready with us, then directly we can go and practically implement our relational schema in one of the relational database management systems. So we are going to discuss now how to reduce ER model to tables. So what we mean by tables? Tables are the integral parts of the relational model, right? And that is why whatever is our ER model, we are supposed to reduce it. We are supposed to convert it in the form of relations in relational model or tables in the relational model. Right? So, a database that has been represented by means of ER diagram, now it can be represented by means of a collection of tables. Right? Now, for every entity set and for every relationship set in our ER model, we are having associated one table having the same name that of our entity set or the relationship set, right? So every entity set will have associated one table in my relational model. Every relationship set also will have one associated table in my relational model, right? And for every table, we are going to assign the unique name, right? So every table will have a unique name, and typically whatever is the name of my entity set or whatever is the name of my relationship set in ER model, the same name I'll be using for the corresponding table. Correct? Are you getting me? If you have any doubts, please let me know. Okay? So now let's proceed with next. So as we know, our entity sets are having the attributes. Also, our relationship sets are having the attributes. So every entity set and every relationship set in ER model is having a corresponding table. So obviously, whenever we try to create a table, we should have the attributes also, or we should have the columns also in the table. So the attributes of the entity set or the attributes of the relationship set will be now the columns in the table, right? So in my table, every column corresponds to the attribute of my entity set or the relationship set. And obviously, in one table, all the attributes should be unique. Okay? Next. This is one of the examples, right? So, we had one of our strong entity sets in our ER diagram, and that was the department, right? And the department entity set was having 3 attributes. So whenever I convert that entity set into a tabular form, then I am having such kind of a table. So department entity set had 3 attributes: department name, building and budget. So in my table now, these 3 attributes are 3 columns, right? So every strong entity set gets reduced to a table with the same attributes, those we have in that entity set. So whatever are the attributes in my entity set, those attributes become now the columns of my table in my relational model. Okay? This is our department table associated with the strong entity set department. Okay? Now, as we have seen in ER model, we are having composite attributes, we are having multi-valued attributes, we are having attributes, right? So, how to deal with these different kinds of attributes whenever we convert our ER model into the relational schema? So, in fact, the composite attributes are flattened out by creating the separate attribute for each component of the composite attribute. So what I mean by that? If, let us assume that we are having entity set that is student. Okay, and let us assume that entity set student is having the composite attribute that is name. So I am having entity set which is student, and I am having composite attribute that is name. So obviously, what I mean by composite attribute? Composite attribute is having the subparts. So name is having some subparts. And what are those subparts, these components? I may have first name, last name, even name. Okay, so these are the components of this composite attribute name. So whenever I convert this composite attribute in my relational model or in my table, then how to deal with this composite attribute? We are going to flatten out this composite attribute. So what does this mean? In relational model, while creating a table, what I will do is, if I am having two subparts of this composite attribute name, then this is my student entity set. So what I'll do is, I'll create a table student. I'm having several other attributes as well. Okay, I'm not right now concerned about all those attributes. So in my student table, what I'll do is, for this composite attribute, I will not create the attribute as name, but what I will create is, I will create separate two attributes for these two parts, subparts of name. So I'll be having first name as one of the column, and I'll be having last name as another column. So if this composite attribute is having two subparts or two components, then instead of creating a column for this composite attribute name, what I will do? I will create separate columns for the components of the composite attribute. So if I am having first name, last name here, I will be having separate columns, first name and last name. Now, how to deal with multi-valued attribute now? How to deal with multi-valued attribute? We know a multi-valued attribute, right? And how to denote the multi-valued attribute in ER diagram? If I am having the entity set, multi-valued attribute is denoted like this. Correct, no? So we are having this double ellipse to denote the multi-valued attribute. So let us assume that this entity set is E, okay, and this multi-valued attribute is M. And now I am going to convert it into my relational model. So I want to have a table now associated with this entity set. So how to deal with this multi-valued attribute M? Okay, so what I will do is, if I am having a multi-valued attribute M, then I will create a separate table for this multi-valued attribute. Suppose for this entity set E, capital E, I am having the primary key, that is, say, small e, which is my primary key. Okay, and this is my multi-valued attribute. So how I am going to convert this multi-valued attribute into a tabular form? Whatever are the attributes of this entity set E, all those attributes are there. Okay, so let us assume that this E1 is my primary key, E2 is another attribute, okay, E3 is one more attribute, and one multi-valued attribute we have, that is M. So if I want to convert this entity set into the respective table, what I will do is, for this particular entity set E, no doubt I'll be having one table. So in this table, I will be having the attributes like primary key E1, that would be one column, E2, that would be another column, okay, E3, that would be one more column. And now I am having this multi-valued attribute M. So to deal with this multi-valued attribute, I'll be creating one separate table. So this is a table corresponding to my entity set E. And for this multi-valued attribute, I'll be creating another table. and I'll name that table as say EM. Okay, and what I will have in this multi-valued table associated with multi-valued attribute, I'll be having the primary key of this E. So I'll be having E1, that is the primary key of my entity set E, and this attribute M. Are you getting me?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. So what we did, we had one entity set E. We are having few attributes E1, E2, E3. E1 is the primary key and M is the multi-valued attribute for this E. So if I want to convert it into tabular form, what I will do is, for this entity set E, I will have a separate table E, having my primary key E1 and rest of the attributes, whatever it may be. And how to deal with this multi-valued attribute now? For multi-valued attribute, I'll be creating a separate table. Okay, and in this table, I will have primary key of the E along with this attribute itself, that is M. So how I am going to store now the data? See here, please understand the logic behind. Suppose I am storing in this entity set, suppose I am storing employees. So E1 is my primary key. So I am having this primary key, say ID of the employee. Okay, so I'll be having employee with ID 1, 2, 3. Correct? No? So all this information I am going to store for all those different employees. E1 is unique, so I'll be having unique ID for employee and associated information, whatever it may be, I'm going to store in this table. And as every employee is now might have more than one attributes, multi-valued attributes. So let us assume that this is phone number. So every employee may have more than one phone number. So how to store this now, more than one phone numbers? I'll be creating separate entity set for that. So I'm having primary key of this entity set, that is E1, and the attribute named phone number or M. So here, if employee 1 is having two phone numbers associated, how I'm going to input the data here? Employee number 1 with the first phone number, employee number 1 once again with another phone number. Employee number 2, if employee number 2 is having a single phone number, then I'll be having only one record for that. Right? So likewise, I'm going to store the information in the table. Right? So I hope you must have understood the concept. Okay? So what we are going to do is table EM, that is a new separate table, will be having the attributes corresponding to the primary key of entity set E and an attribute corresponding to the multi-valued attribute M. So E1 and M. Got the concept? Yes? May I proceed now? May I proceed?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. Now, let us see how to represent weak entity set in the relational model. Okay, so we have gone through the concept of weak entity set, and we stated that weak entity set always depends upon the corresponding strong entity set, right? So if we want to represent this in a tabular form, then how we are going to convert this ER model into a tabular form? See, as course is the strong entity set, we will be having a separate table to store this data related to course. So I'll be having a separate table course with 3 attributes: course ID, title and credits. Okay, now we are talking about this weak entity set. So weak entity set, for weak entity set, no doubt we are going to create a table. Okay, so for section I'll be creating separate table, and what I will do is whatever are the attributes of this section, those attributes will become the columns of that table. So my section table will have 3 columns: section ID, semester, year, no doubt, because these are 3 attributes of my table. But in addition to attributes of the weak entity set, I am going to add one more attribute, one more column in my table section. And what is that column? That column will be the corresponding primary key of the strong entity set. We have seen that this entity set is known as identifying entity set. This is my weak entity set, right? And this is my identifying relationship set. Okay, so what I will do is, for weak entity set, I will create a table, right? I will have all those columns associated with individual attributes of the weak entity set, but in addition, whichever is my identifying entity set, primary key of that entity set, I will be adding in the table of my weak entity set. So table of my weak entity set section will have now, in this particular example, 4 columns. Course ID, that is the primary key of the identifying entity set, section ID, that is the attribute, semester is the attribute, and year is the attribute of section. Now here, all these 3 attributes of my weak entity set are the descriptors or the partial keys having the dashed underline. So to prepare the primary key for this table, I will use all these partial keys along with the primary key of the corresponding identifying entity set. So primary key for this section would be course ID, section ID, semester and year. Correct? Got the concept? If you have any doubts, please speak up. Yes.
Ma'am, repeat again.
Okay, okay, fine. So, see what we are trying to do. We are trying to convert our weak entity set into corresponding table. So what we will have is, we will definitely have a new table for this weak entity set, that is section. Okay, whatever are the attributes of this weak entity sets, no doubt these attributes will be present in my table. So I'll be having section ID, I'll be having semester, and I'll be having year. But as this is weak entity set, to identify individual entry in my weak entity set, I need to take help from the corresponding identifying entity set. In this case, it is course. So obviously, what I need to do is, if I want to locate a particular row in this table, I need to make use of primary key of this course. So I will add one more column here, and that column will be the primary key of the strong entity set associated. Okay, so I need to add course ID also here. So I will be having course ID along with all these attributes of my weak entity set. Now I need to find out the primary key for the weak entity set. So how I am going to form the primary key? So primary key usually is meant for unique identification of the record that is being stored in my table. Okay, so the primary key is being formed such that I'll be having the union of my partial key of the weak entity set and the primary key of the strong entity set. So here my partial key is combination of these three attributes, and I am having course ID as the primary key of strong entity set. So primary key of my weak entity set section would be the combination of course ID, section ID, semester and year. So these four attributes together will form my primary key, and that is why it is underlined here if you observe. Right? So in this particular example, we are having all these three attributes which comprise the partial key. So partial key along with my course ID, that is the primary key of the strong entity set, that will become my primary key of the weak entity set. Please remember, if I am having any other attribute other than the partial key here, then that attribute will also be there in my table. This new attribute, if I am having, that attribute will also have in my table. But as this is not the part of my partial key, right, that will not be the part of my primary key. So if I am having here the attribute X, then obviously these three attributes will be there, and also I'll be having this attribute X in my table. Okay, and the primary key once again will be only course ID, section ID, semester, year, and I'll be having one more attribute simply as X. But that is not part of my primary key. Primary key is comprising the primary key of the strong entity set and the partial key of the weak entity set. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
May I proceed?
Yes.
Okay. So now we talked about the entity sets, we talked about the attributes and how to convert the entity sets into the form of a table. Now we are going to talk about how to convert a relationship set in ER model in a tabular form. Okay, now let us assume that we are having one-to-many relationship set. One-to-many relationship set. Okay, say for example, if we are having this ER model, okay, so we are having this relationship, say advisor, okay, which is one-to-many, from instructor to student and many to one from student to instructor. So we are having this relationship advisor. Now, if I want to convert now, as I stated, every relationship will also have associated table. Now, if I want to convert this relationship set into a tabular form, then how I am going to convert it? See here, this relationship set will have the primary key, or rather primary keys of the participating entity sets. So who are the participating entity sets here? Instructor and student. So I am having instructor and I am having student who are participating in this relationship set advisor. So in this table of advisor, what I will have? I will have the primary key of instructor and primary key of the student. So I am having here primary key of student, that is ID. So here instead of both are IDs, na? In table I cannot have two columns with same name, and I also want to distinguish which is the student ID and which is the instructor ID, and that is why while creating this table for this relationship set advisor, what I will do is primary key of the student is ID, so I will have SID as one of the column, and primary key of instructor is also ID. So I will have IID as another column in this table of advisor. Getting me? Yes? Are you getting me?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. Now let us assume that we are having, for this advisor, we are having one descriptive attribute also, and that is say date. Date. When this association of student and instructor started. So if for the relationship set, if I am having the descriptive attribute, any descriptive attribute, then for that descriptive attribute I will be having a separate column. So if date is the descriptive attribute in my advisor table, then I'll be having a separate column date right here in this table. Got the concept? Yes. So for any relationship set, to convert a relationship set into a tabular form, what I will have is, I will have the primary keys of the participating entity sets, and also I will have the descriptive attributes of the relationship set, if any. And also we are supposed to apply some rules, right, to locate this descriptive attribute, whether it would be the part of my relationship set table or whether we can assign this attribute in either of these tables associated with the participating entity sets. So I am going to focus upon these rules as well a bit later. But just understand that associated with every relationship set, I should have one table. The columns of that table would be the primary keys of the participating entity sets. Along with these primary keys of the participating entity sets, if required, or if there are any descriptive attributes associated with the relationship set, I will add that descriptive attribute also as one of the columns. Got the concept? Got the concept? May I proceed?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. Now, let us see, we are having many-to-many relationship set. Many-to-many relationship set. So, where is the many-to-many relationship set? Let us assume that this text is many-to-many. Correct? No? This text is many-to-many. So, what we are storing actually here in this relationship set? Which student has registered for which sections? So one student may register for many number of sections and one section is registered by many students. So this relationship set is many to many. And for this relationship set, many to many relationship set, we are having the descriptive attribute also, that is grade. Right? And now we are converting this entity set text into a tabular form. So how we are going to do that? Once again, we'll be applying the same rule. And what that rule is, if I want to create a table for the relationship set, then I will have the primary keys of the corresponding participating entity sets. Am I correct? What I will have in this relationship set or the table for this relationship set, I will have primary keys or the participating entity sets. Right? Now, in this text, who are participating in this text? Who are participating? Which entity sets are participating? Yes, anybody?
Student and section.
Yes. So which entity sets are participating? Student and section are participating. So in this table, what we will have? We will have primary key of student. We will have primary key of section, and also we will have the descriptive attribute of that relationship. So my text table will have the columns like this. What are the columns? Please look at this. My text relationship set will have the columns like the primary key of the student. So what is the primary key of the student? ID. So I am having that column ID. What is primary key of this section? We have seen this is the weak entity set. No? So the primary key of the weak entity set is this partial key plus primary key of the corresponding strong entity set. So for this weak entity set, we are having this strong entity set associated. So we need to add this partial key of this weak entity set along with this primary key of the strong entity set in this table. So what we will have? We will have for this section, we will be having course ID, section ID, semester and year. So these four attributes actually are forming the primary key of the section. So I am having primary key of the student, that is ID, and primary key of this section. Primary key of this section is course ID, section ID, semester, year. Four attributes. Plus the descriptive attribute of this relationship set. So here grade is the descriptive attribute. So I am having that column as well. So this is how we are going to form this table text. Are you getting me? Yes,
Yes.
are you getting me?
Yes, ma'am.
Got the concept? Got the concept?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. May I proceed now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. So we have talked about how to convert entity set into the tabular form. We have talked about how to deal with the composite attributes, how to deal with multi-valued attributes while converting it into a tabular form. Also, we have seen how to convert a relationship set into a respective tabular form. Now, I am going to focus upon few more rules. And what are those rules? Actually, many times we may combine the tables based on these rules. So, what are those rules? I'm just going to list out and then we'll be demonstrating it with our representative ER model. Okay, so the first rule, please listen carefully and try to understand, because everything we are supposed to practically do. Okay, so if I am having many to one or one to many relationship set, if I am having many to one or one to many relationship set, and at many side, if the participation of the entity set is total. I'll repeat. If I am having many to one or one to many relationship set, and towards many side, if my participation is total participation. if this is the case, then we need not have a separate table for this many to one or one to many relationship set. But instead, what we can do is we can add an extra attribute to the many side containing the primary key of the one side. What we mean by that, I'm going to demonstrate this with examples, okay? But just understand the rule. What this case is, I'm having many to one or one to many relationship set, and towards many side, we are having total participation. Then, if this is the case, then we may omit the table for the relationship set, and instead what we can do is towards many side entity set we may add one extra attribute. And what is that extra attribute? That extra attribute is the primary key of the one side. Okay, that is the rule. So once again refer to this particular ER model. Okay, now let us consider this table, or rather this entity set course. Let us consider this entity set, that is department, and in between this course and department we are having the relationship set course department. Okay, now what is the cardinality for this relationship set? Yes, what is the cardinality for this relationship set? Mapping cardinality? Yes?
One to many.
It is one to many from department to course.
One to many.
Correct, no? One to many from department to course. Or if I look at from this side, from course to department, it is many to one. Is that correct? So it is many
Yes.
to one or it is one to many. But in addition, what the condition we stated? If the relationship set is having total participation towards many side. So this is my many side. Which is my many side? This course. Right? And this course is having total participation in this relationship set. Is that correct? This is my total participation. So course is the many side, and towards many side I am having total participation in my relationship set. Is that correct? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. So now we are going to apply the rule. So what my rule says is, if this is the situation, then there is no need to create a separate table for this relationship set, course department. Instead, what we can do is, we can add primary key of the entity set towards one side. So which is the entity set towards one side? It is department. So what we can do is, while building the table for course, I can add primary key of department in this table course, and I will omit the table associated with this course department. So ultimately what I will have is, in my course table I'll be having these three attributes, no doubt. I'll be having course ID, I'll be having title, right? I'll be having credits. But in addition now, as every course is associated with a single department, only one department, na? Because it is one side, and it is total participation, meaning every course must participate in this relationship. So every course must be associated with one department, must be. And that is why what we can do is we can omit this relationships table. Okay, and instead what we can do is the primary key of this department can be added in the course table itself. Is that correct? And why we are doing this? Because if we create one more table associated with this course department, I may have a table associated with this course department, wherein I'll be having course ID of this entity set as one attribute and department name as other attribute. But every course corresponds to only one department that I know. So instead of maintaining this separate table, what I can do is I can add this department name in course table itself. And this is how we can combine the tables. Got it? If you have any doubts, please let me know. Yes?
No, ma'am.
Understood the concept and what is the reason behind? And when we are going to do that, I'll repeat once again. If my relationship set is many to one or one to many, towards many side, if I am having total participation, then it is possible for me to omit the separate table for the relationship set. Instead, what I can do is, in my table of many side, I can add primary key of the one side entity set. Say for example, if you look at now, you can find out the relevance here. If you look at, I am having say some course, that is say image processing is the course, having some course ID, title is image processing and credits are being assigned. Okay, and who is offering this course? This course is offered by computer science department. So what I can do, and this course is offered by only one department. Only one department. So what I can do is, and there is a total participation, meaning this course must be associated with department. It will not happen that there is a course and there is no associated department. It will never happen. And that is why there is a total participation towards many sides. And hence, what we can do is, instead of creating this separate table, we are adding primary key of the department in this course table itself, so that immediately we can understand which course is offered by which department. Got it? May I proceed?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. So, let's proceed now with one more such situation. So, we have seen weak entity set, how to convert weak entity set into tabular form. We know how to convert strong entity set into a tabular form, but we have not yet talked about this identifying relationship in between, what to do with this relationship. Okay, so earlier what we have done is we have created a separate table for course, because course is my strong entity set, right? We have created a table for this weak entity set as well. Okay, and what we did in this table of weak entity set, what we did is we added all the attributes of the weak entity set along with the primary key of the associated strong entity set on which this weak entity set is dependent. Okay. Now, as we know, this identifying relationship set between my weak entity set and the strong entity set. This relationship set is known as identifying relationship set, and always this participation is total participation. Always this participation is total participation. So this weak entity set is participating totally in this identifying relationship set. And this is many to one or one to many. Okay. So in this case, once again, as we have added this course ID, that is the primary key, in the table of weak entity set, once again there is no need to create a separate table for this identifying relationship set, because if we create a separate table for this relationship set, then what would be the attribute for that table? The attributes for that table would be the primary keys of the respective participating entity sets. So in this relationship set table, what I need to have? I need to have course ID and I need to have this partial key, section ID, semester, year. But the same attributes are actually present in the table with respect to this weak entity set. So there is no point in creating a redundant table like this, because the same information is already there in my table associated with weak entity set. So what I will do is, I will not create a separate table for the identifying relationship set, because it would be storing the redundant information, right? So if I'm supposed to create the tables in this scenario wherein I'm having weak entity set, identifying relationship set and the strong entity set associated, I'll be creating only two tables. One meant for the identifying entity set and one meant for the weak entity set. I'll not create the table for this identifying relationship set. No table. Got it? Yes? Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. So, may I proceed? May I proceed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Fine. Now, let us see how to represent generalization specialization in the relational table. Okay. So, we are actually having two methods for converting my specialization generalization into a tabular form. And what the first method says. So, suppose I am having this kind of generalization or specialization with me. So, I am having the higher level entity set, that is person, and the lower level entity sets, those are employee and student. So, in method number 1, if I want to convert this ER model into a tabular form now, okay, then what I'll be doing is, I'll be forming a table for the higher level entity set. So I'll be forming a separate table for this higher level entity set, that is person. And what will be the attributes or columns of that table? I'll be having those attributes. So ID, name and address. Okay, so I'll be creating a table for higher level entity set, that is person, with the respective attributes, ID, name and address. Now, what I will do next, employee and student are the lower level entity sets. And as we have discussed earlier, all the attributes of the higher level entity set are inherited by the lower level entity sets. Okay, and this has been depicted here with this easy relationship. So while practically implementing this, what we will do is we will form a separate table for each lower level entity set. So I'll be having one table for employee and I'll be having one more table for student. And what will be the attributes now? See, if I'm having here the separate attributes for these lower level entity sets, no doubt I need to include those attributes for the lower level entity sets. But in addition, I need to add the primary key of the higher level entity set into the table associated with the lower level entity set. So in my employee table, I will have salary, which is its own attribute. In addition, I will have ID, which is the primary key of the higher level entity set. And why I need this ID in this table also? Because ultimately I need to relate these two entities, stored in person and employee. Correct? I am not going to store name and address once again with employee here. But if I store ID of the higher level entity set, it is possible for me to identify who is that person. Correct? So I may refer to once again this person table and I can find out the name and address associated with the ID of the employee. Also, it is possible for me to find out name and address of the student with the ID stored in the student table. Is that correct? So, method 1 says that if I want to convert this kind of generalization or specialization in the tabular form, what I can do is I can prepare a separate table for my higher level entity set along with all its attributes. In addition, I will have separate tables for each lower level entity sets along with its local attributes. What I need to do is I need to add the primary key of the higher level entity set into these lower level entity set tables. We may identify one disadvantage or one drawback. See, what is that drawback? If I want to get the information, right? If I want to get all the information about the person, then I need to take help from two tables. So I need to access two tables. So if I want to get the information of a particular student, then I need to refer to the student table and also I need to refer to person table, because some information is available in the student table and some information like name, address is available in person table. So every time whenever I want to get the information about a person, all the information about a person, then always I need to use two tables. So I need to access two tables, right? And that might be one of the drawbacks of this type of conversion into tabular form. Do you agree with me? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you agree with me? If I want to refer to the information of the employee, Or if I want to access the information of the student, then what I need to do? Whichever student ID I want to extract the information from, I need to refer to that student table. Also, I need to refer to the person table because name and address is not available in student table. Yes? Right? Do you agree with me? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
May I proceed next? Proceed with the next concept?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So let us proceed now with the next method. Second method, number 2. So this method is typically being used if my generalization or if my specialization is disjoint and complete or total. So if the generalization is disjoint and total or complete, we need to make use of this method, method number 2. So once again, we'll be referring to the same thing, but now here I am having this total participation or complete participation over here. So I am having this constraint total, and also I am having this specialization or this generalization that is disjoint. So please let us recall back what we mean by this total participation and what we mean by this disjoint constraint. Anybody who can explain? What is this total and what is this disjoint? Please speak up. We have gone through these concepts. Yes? What we mean by this disjoint constraint?
If an entity belongs to only one lower level entity set within a single generalization, then it is disjoint.
Correct. Very good. Who is this? Amruta. Yes, very true. So when we say that it is disjoint, higher level entity set is person. So if this entity set belongs to either employee or student, not both, right? So the higher level entity is member of at the most one lower level entity set. Then we say that it is disjoint. So person would be either employee or person would be the student, right? It is not possible that they overlap. So the same person is employee also and the same person is student also. It is not possible. So either a person is employee or a student. Okay, so this kind of the constraint is being depicted as disjoint, and we label this link over here as disjoint. So next to this triangular notation, we write the word disjoint. Correct? So this is what we mean by this disjoint constraint. And what about completeness or this total participation? How to interpret this? Yes? How to interpret this? Yes, please speak up. How I can interpret this?
Total generalization means an entity must belong to one of the lower level entities.
Yes. So if I am having this total specialization or total generalization, then it means that every higher level entity set must be member of at least one lower level entity set. So this person must be there either in this employee entity set or must be the member of this student entity set, which are the lower level entity sets. So if this is the case, then we say that it is total generalization. Right? Now, in method number 2, we are saying that if my generalization is disjoint and total, then what we can do is, it is possible for us to not to create the table, separate table for higher level entity set. So instead, what we can do is, we can create a table for employee, that is a lower level entity set, and also we can have a separate table for other lower level entity set, that is student. And what about the attributes? For this employee now, no doubt the lower level attribute would be there, but in addition, what I'm going to store is, I'll be storing all the attributes associated with higher level entity set also. So employee will have the attributes ID, name, address along with its lower level attribute, local attribute, salary, and the student table will have the attributes belonging to the higher level entity set, that means ID, name, address, and also its local attribute, that is total credits. So instead of creating 3 tables, now we are creating only 2 tables. Okay, and how about the attributes? We'll be having, in every table, we'll be having the attributes from the higher level entity set along with its local attributes. So attributes, those are inherited by the lower level entity sets along with its local attributes. So this is how we may create the tables. Fine. So now, in this design also, we may come up with some drawbacks, right? And what are those drawbacks? If we use such kind of a design for overlapping generalization, if we use such kind of a design for overlapping generalization, what we mean by overlapping generalization? It is not disjoint, but if it is overlapping, that means few of the entities are also present in this lower level entity set and also this lower level entity set. So if we are having such kind of overlapping generalization, then it may happen, if we go with this design, it may happen that the attributes like name and address are duplicated or stored twice in both these tables. Do you agree with me? Yes? Do you agree with me? If I make use of such kind of a design for overlapping generalization, then what will happen? I'll be storing some information more than once in 2 separate tables. So one person is part of employee also, and that same person is part of student also. And if I am using such kind of a design, then what will happen? The same ID or the same person will appear in this employee table also and will appear in this student table also. So obviously the name and address of the person I am repeatedly storing in both the tables. So there is redundant information that I am storing. Right? So if I am making use of such kind of a design with overlapping generalization, then I may face this drawback of storing some redundant information. Got it? So that is why we mentioned that if the generalization is disjoint, we should prefer to use this method number 2. Okay. And also we mentioned that if my generalization is complete, then use such kind of a method. So the other disadvantage or drawback that we may list out here is with respect to if my generalization is not complete or if my generalization is not total, then what will happen? If my generalization is not total, then what will happen? If it is not total, that means there are few of the persons, those are not members of either employee or student, but still they are registered here in person. So the entities are there in my person entity set, but they are not members of any of the lower level entity sets, employee or student. And that is why it is not complete generalization. So if the generalization is not complete, then it may happen that few of the higher level entity sets will neither appear in lower level entity set 1 or lower level entity set 2. So if this is the case and if I opt for such kind of a design wherein I am having only 2 tables related to the lower level entity sets, then what will happen? It is not possible for me to store the data related with such persons. Those are not employees or students. So I will miss that information. It is not possible for me to store that information about the persons who are not employees or not students. Got it? Any doubt? Please speak up if you have any doubts. Yes? Any doubt?
No, ma'am.
Have you understood the concept? Yes? How to represent generalization in the tabular form. So we have seen 2 methods, method number 1 and method number 2. What we did in method number 1, created separate tables for higher level entity set and lower level entity sets, right? And while creating the table for lower level entity set, what we did, we used one additional attribute, and that is the primary key of the higher level entity set, right? So this is the method number 1. In method number 2, what we did, we created, instead of the table associated with the higher level entity set, we created only the tables for the lower level entity sets, and we have added all the attributes of the higher level entity set in each of the tables for the lower level entity sets, right? So this is method number 2. So when we should go with method number 2, ideally whenever the generalization is disjoint and complete or total, then we should opt for this method number 2. Otherwise, we may face some problems, and we have listed those problems as well. So what happens if my generalization is overlapping, and what happens if my generalization is not complete? In both the situations, if I go with such kind of a design, I may face a problem. And that is why we mentioned that if the generalization is disjoint and complete, then we should go with such kind of a representation of tables. Right? May I proceed? May I proceed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, Let us talk about the aggregation. How to represent aggregation in the form of the tables. Okay, so if we want to represent aggregation, what we are going to do is we are going to create a table that contains the primary key of the aggregated relationship, the primary key of the associated entity set, and any descriptive attributes, if any. So what we mean by that? What we are going to store in our table in case of aggregation. So let us assume that we are having this aggregation. So we have seen this example earlier. So in this aggregation, we are having aggregation of this upper level structure with this entity set evaluation. Okay. Now, how to represent this eval for relationship? So this eval for relationship is actually the relationship between this aggregated entity set at the upper level, right, and the entity set evaluation. So in my eval for, what I will have is, in this table eval for, I'll be having the primary key of this and the primary key of this evaluation, and if I'm having any descriptive attributes associated with this eval for, I'll be having that too. So in the table associated with this relationship set eval for, I'll be having the primary key for this entire aggregated structure. So what I'll have in primary key of this? I'll have primary key IID for instructor. I will have primary key of this student, that is SID. I'll be having primary key of this project, that is project ID. Okay, and also I'll be having primary key for this evaluation, that is evaluation ID. So primary key of this, primary key of this, and in addition, if I'm having any descriptive attribute over here, I will add that in the table associated. So eval for will consist of instructor ID, student ID, project ID, and evaluation ID. In addition, we may have any descriptive attribute of this eval for. So this is how we are going to form the table for this eval for. Right? Are you getting me? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. So with this, we have talked about various different constructs in ER model and how, with respect to all those ER model constructs, how this can be converted into a tabular form.